Hey everyone, it's Laura Curry from Fit and Funny Mama here. Happy Monday. If we haven't met before, my name is Laura Curry. I'm a married mom of one from Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I struggled with obesity most of my life. And finally, a few years ago, I did the yo-yo up and down weight loss thing in my early adult years. And then finally, a few years ago, I finally decided, you know what, I'm going to change for good. So I went on another diet essentially where I was eating 1,200 calories a day, 6 days a week. On the 7th day, I would allow myself to do a full-on binge. I lost 85 pounds in 9 months. Great, right? Yeah, it wasn't sustainable. And it's just like every other diet. It wasn't sustainable, right? So I continued working out on a regular basis, which is something I'm proud of myself of because before 2011, I basically prided myself on being lazy, and I was one of those people that I hated exercise. So I continued working out, but all of my old bad habits and struggles with things like binge eating, emotional eating, those things all started bubbling up and getting really out of control again. So I ended up gaining back some of the weight that I had lost and just struggling yet again. That's just a little backstory about me. And so essentially what I found with in the last couple of years is that there was more than just finding the right diet plan. It was more of a mindset thing. It was working through emotional blocks. Like when you struggle with obesity and you struggle with things like emotional eating and binge eating, it's not, the emotional eating, the binge eating, and the excess weight is a result of other things going on. That's the biggest thing I discovered in the last few years. And so my passion now is essentially showing people, teaching people how to overcome those sorts of struggles and like emotional eating, binge eating, those sorts of things, and lose weight once and for all, and just enjoy food. Like have a good relationship with food so that you're not dieting. Not everybody, so many people live their whole lives constantly on the wagon, off the wagon. And what I want to talk about today is diet culture. So I'm going to actually read you guys the definition of diet culture because it's just like, oh my goodness, like everybody's affected by it. It's just such a huge thing. So diet culture is a society that focuses on and values weight, shape, and size over health and well-being. Variations of diet culture also include rigid eating patterns that on the surface are in the name of health, but in reality are about weight, shape, and size. Like, who cannot relate to that? Like, who cannot say at some point in time they have fell into that, right? And if you are struggling with your weight, with things like emotional eating and binge eating, you are totally probably sucked into diet culture. And it's just so dangerous. So here's an example. If you've ever said a phrase such as, oh, I'm going to do bad today and eat a cookie, or I'm going to do bad today and get a milkshake, I'm going to do bad today and get the donut. If you've said anything like that, you've been sucked into diet culture because what makes it bad otherwise? Or if you've ever referred to having a bad food weekend, you went overboard with the bad food on the weekend. Those sorts of things, that's all of that terminology has come from diet culture. If you've ever used phrases like that, drop me an emoji, any emoji below, because I know that I'm not alone and I know that you're not alone. And I know that it's like, I think pretty much every single person out there has used those sorts of terminology with themselves. That's diet culture, right? There are foods that are more nutritious than other foods, absolutely. But what makes it good or bad? The other thing that's kind of ironic, I'm just going to throw that out there because you guys know I always need to kind of put a funny spin on things, is like a cookie, for example, is considered a quote unquote bad food. Yet don't we like reward children and stuff with cookies? It's kind of ironic, right? Yeah, Deb, you're not alone. Everybody has done that. So that's the trouble with diet culture. It gets us obsessing over foods. It gets us looking for a set of rules to follow. We're looking for a set of rules for what we should eat, what we're allowed to eat, and what we shouldn't eat, the quote unquote bad foods. And essentially what diet culture has done is it has totally, we have lost all of our instincts around what we should be eating. And the real big issue is that there's no one way for everybody to eat. You know what I mean? Like, we are all different. We all have different ancestors. We all come from different backgrounds. People that, like, I don't know, say people that come from like India, like they can handle, typically their ancestors all the way back have eaten a diet really high in carbohydrates and grains and those sorts of things. So they typically, their bodies do really well, even nowadays, on those sorts of foods. However, somebody from like, you know, the north, their ancestors probably lived on a lot of, you know, animal fat, like blubber and stuff like that. That's what they lived on, animal protein and fat. So you're probably going to do better on a diet high in that. It's just, it depends on so many different things, but there's no one size fits all. So that's the problem with diet culture. That's the problem with all of us trying to fit in one little box where we're all, okay, we're going to all eat this way, you know, because that's not that simple, right? You need to listen to your own body, and you need to listen to your own instincts and what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And this food makes me feel not that great, and that food makes me feel really good. And when I eat lots of this, it makes me feel great, and you know, that sort of stuff, right? So we've totally lost all of that, and that's the biggest issue with diet culture. So the biggest thing for getting over diet culture, and it's tough because there's a lot of peer pressure that comes with it too. I mean, I hear it all the time. I hear comments all the time about, you know, not necessarily directed at me, but I hear them out and about and stuff like that. If you're out for dinner with a group of friends and you just get a salad or you make a healthy choice because really that's what you feel like eating, you're going to hear comments probably about, oh, what, are you on a diet, right? Like, we've heard those things. So that's kind of part of the struggle with it as well. But that also comes with just, you know, I don't give a crap what they think. Like, I just feel like eating this right now. Like, my body, when I looked at the menu, I was like, I want a bunch of greens and that salad with like the beets and the pecans, and that sounds really good. That's what I want right now. You know what I mean? And that's all it is. It's not a diet. But so there's that whole aspect as well that makes it difficult. But the biggest thing to get past diet culture, and it's tough, right? Like, because we're surrounded by it and we've become so accustomed to it, is changing your vocabulary, right? So this is something that I became really aware of, and I changed a few months back. And it was really interesting just kind of noticing how much I used that sort of vocabulary. The vocabulary I'm talking about is referring to foods as good or bad, or saying I had a bad food night or a bad food week, and those sorts of things. Also changing your language from, don't say things like I'm on the wagon or I'm off the wagon. Like, all of that stuff, that is insinuating that you're not eating to live, that you're not just eating for the rest of your life, but you are trying to follow some sort of rule, right? Like, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. If you're just like, okay, I'm just eating because that's what I do. I need to eat to live. I need to eat to fuel my body. It's kind of crazy to refer to eating as being on the wagon or off the wagon. So it's becoming aware of your vocabulary around that and changing it. That's really the first step to disconnecting yourself from diet culture. The second step is to not look for a set of rigid rules to follow. Try to just start listening to your body and get in touch with what actually makes you feel good, what gives you energy, what makes you feel happy and healthy, and what doesn't make you feel so good. And just start slowly eating more of the foods that make you feel good and backing off of the foods that don't make you feel good. It doesn't need to be anything drastic. The hardest part about it, especially if you do have weight that you want to lose, is that focus and that goal needs to go on the back burner. You can't be focused on the weight. You can't be, ultimately worried about losing a certain amount of weight. You need to start focusing on the other things, the health, how good you feel, how energetic you can be, inflammation going down, all of those sorts of things. So those are your top 2 tips for getting started to disconnect from diet culture, and a little bit about what diet culture is and why it is so horrible. So if this video was helpful for you, I always love the thumbs up and the hearts. Go ahead and share this video if you think any of your friends or family will benefit from watching this. And also, I'm really excited to share with you guys, I am going to be launching my Food Freedom Weight Loss Program starting June 4th is when it's going to start. Registration will open on May 27th, so still a few weeks out, but I'm really excited for it. We're going to dive way deeper into topics such as diet culture, and then I'm also going to give you a program to follow. It's not going to be set. I'm not giving, set meal plans and stuff like that, because like I say, ultimately you need to learn to listen to your own body, but I am going to give you tips and tools on how to start doing that, because I know, especially if you struggle with your weight for a long time, it's hard to really get in touch with your body finally. If you've been really absorbed into diet culture and you've been, cutting your calories and cutting your carbs and cutting your fat for years and years and years, it's hard to get in touch with that. So that's what I'm going to be teaching in my Food Freedom Weight Loss Program. So I'm super excited about that. I will drop a link below this video once I get off if you want to get on the list to be notified as that registration opens up, as that gets closer, because it's still a few weeks out, as I say. But I'm really excited about this, and I hope this is helpful for you guys. I hope you're having a great Monday, and I will talk to you later.